Hello again. So welcome to another lesson of the Enterprise Resource Planning and Management subject. So we are now on the lesson 2, which is about the business process reengineering. Before we continue our lesson, I think we will continue at topic 3. Let's review first yung naging discussions natin of the topic 1 and topic 2. So before we consider the business process reengineering, we must answer this sample questions like, does the mission need to be redefined? Are the strategic goals aligned with the mission? And who are the customers? So basically, before we considered re-engineering process, if the organizations will answer these questions yes, then we can actually consider a BPR. So what is BPR? Again, so business process reengineering, marami siyang mga terminologies, pwedeng redesigning, diba? Reconstructions, but BPR is an approach aiming at improvements by means of elevating efficiency and effectiveness of the business process that exists within and across organizations. So re-engineering identifies, analyzes, and redesigns an organization's core business processes. Siyempre, ang aim natin is to have a dramatic improvements in a critical performance measures ng organizations. Kunwari, cost reductions, the quality, improvement of quality, the services, and of course, speed or mas mabilis na matapos yung process. Okay? Mas mapaikli natin yung processing time. So, those are the things bakit kailangan natin ng business process reengineering. Okay, so now let's go to the topic 3, which is about the business process reengineering life cycle. So, BPR life cycle represents a closed loop learning system for the organization to promote continuous improvement and organizational learning. The major components of a business process reengineering life cycle includes the following. So first is the identification of the current business processes. We will review, update, and analyzing of as-is processes, design of to-be processes, and test and implementation of to-be processes. So to discuss it further, we have this diagram. So for the identification process, we identify the current processes and basic information. So ano ba ang current na ginagawa ng organization? Ano yung mga processes na i-revisit natin? So lahat ng processes, kasi as BPR says, we will look at the holistic organization, not just a part of the organization, but as a whole. So we need to identify all the basic informations and the processes that the organizations are doing. Next is review, update, analyze as is. So we will analyze and measure the current processes, identify disconnects and value-adding processes, create documentation of activity and processes models, execute simulation of analyzed factors such as cost and time, and then the processes that need to be redesigned or identified. So at this stage, we will identify ano yung mga kailangan nating redesign. Since we are analyzing ano ba yung current na ginagawa ng organization. So ano ba yung target natin? If mapabilis yung transactions, then what are we going to do? So we will design, we will create, one or more alternatives to the current situation that meet the strategic objectives of the organization. So we will design to be processes. Ano yung dapat baguhin dun sa current na nating ginagawa? Ano yung dapat na maging changes? So we will validate also yung to be processes and perform trade-off analysis. So kaya maraming alternatives, not only just one option, but we will do one or more alternatives for us to validate ano yung pinakamagandang way or pinakamagandang maging setup, yung bagong setup ng process na pwedeng ma-improve yung target natin na gustong mangyari sa organization. Then the last is to test and implement to be. So develop transformation plan, prototype and simulate transformation plan, retrain the staff and make ready to deal and work with the new processes, and then implement transformation plan. Okay. So hindi madali syempre yung especially dun sa implementation stage. Maraming pwedeng mangyari at the implementation stage. Kahit pa gaano kaganda yung process na gusto mong i-implement, if all the employees are resisting to the change, therefore hindi siya magsasucceed. Okay. So but that is the life cycle ng BPR. So we have 4 stages. From the identification ng process, we will review and update the analysis na ano ang current na ginagawa. Then we will design ng bago. Doon sa current na gagawin natin, ano yung dapat baguhin? Ano yung magiging changes? Then we will test and implement if the new process are more efficient and effective. Then we have the topic for elements of a BPR. For the elements of BPR, we have these 4 elements: strategies, people, processes, and technology. And as you can see in the diagram, they are interrelated to each other. So tingnan natin from the first one, strategies. So the strategy dimension has to cover strategies within the other areas under concern, kagaya ng organization strategy, technology strategy, and human resources strategy. So the determination of all strategies has to be performed with respect to the dynamic marketplaces the organization is acting on and is not focused on internalities, but the external presumptions for successful acting on markets. So beyond that, strategies have to be current and relevant to the company's vision, as well as to internal and external constraints, which implies that a reconsideration and redefinition of strategies might be a presumption for further change. Finally, the strategies must be defined in a way that enables understanding and motivation of employees in order to align and work force with them. So the hardest part of a change implementation is actually to consider or to yung thinking ng employees that this will benefit them. No, yun yung isa sa mahirap na factors in any implementation stage. So kailangan in strategies we include, we need to define the strategies in a way na we will motivate the employees na gawin itong changes na to because it will benefit them. So kailangan ma-convince ang lahat ng employees from top to bottom that this redesigning or this re-engineering of the processes will benefit them. The next is the processes. So processes can be defined on different levels within the organization. The issue is to identify core processes which are satisfying customers' needs and add value for them. It is important to point out that processes are not determined by internal organizational requirements, but by customer requirements, even though organizational constraints have to be taken under consideration. So the shift from functional departments to internal functional processes includes a redesign of the entire organizational structure and the human activity systems and implies process instead of task optimizing. Of course, in processes, kaya natin gagawin yung re-engineering process is for us to satisfy our customers' needs and also to add value sa mga customers natin. So, if we shift one process to another core internal processes, and it will involve redesigning of the structure ng organization, it will only implies that the process is hindi siya dapat a burden to the organizations, but actually it will implies na mas na-optimize natin yung organizational processes. So meaning, hindi dapat magkaroon ng confusion on the part of the employees and the top management na ang processes kaya natin i-reorganize or i-redesign is para mas dumami yung trabaho, but we are targeting na mas mapabilis yung trabaho. That's why we need to analyze the process first before natin baguhin. Anin ang part doon na dapat na baguhin. Okay, so the next one is the technology. So technology, information technology is considered as the major enabler for spanning processes over functional and organizational boundaries and supporting process-driven organizations. So see, information technology is a very important, syempre, in the BPR processes. However, the point is not to use IT as an improver for existing activities, as which it often has been conceived, but as enabler for the new organization. So this includes using new technologies such as groupware, as well as new methods for using them, and an acceptance of technological changes, and the fact that information technology will be shaping the future. And the last is the people. The human activity system within the organization is the most critical factor for re-engineering. So while top management support for re-engineering efforts is rather simple to ensure the real change agents, middle management are far harder to win due to the fact that they have to identify change opportunities and perform them, while they are the group of facing most threats, as BPR often is used for cutting hierarchies and reducing the workforce. So the other crucial factor is to align the workforce with the strategies defined and to address the variable cultural and environmental context within the organization. Finally, flattening hierarchies implies decision-making to be moved down in the organization and empowerment of the employees at taking them. This requires training and education as well as motivation and trust from top management that people are able and willing to take responsibility. A fact that is rather contradictory to the trust is good, control is better way of thinking. So the human is the most important factor in the re-engineering process, as they will be the first person affected for the re-engineering. Although, syempre, sino ba nagpaplano nun? Wala namang iba kundi ang people. Pero, hindi lang isa ang involved in the re-engineering. So, lahat as a whole, lahat ng included sa organization na yon will be affected of the re-engineering. Even though kung hindi man siya involved dun sa process, but as a whole, in other way, meron pa rin magiging effect sa kanya yung re-engineering process. So, kailangan lang siguro i-strengthen yung motivational training ng top management sa employees para hindi sila mag-resist dun sa change, or kailangan meron munang training sa mga employees before taking the changes into higher level, or before siya i-implement. Kailangan condition muna ang lahat ng employees kung ano ang mangyayari in the re-engineering of the processes. So again, we have the 4 elements of the BPR that are interconnected to each other: the strategies, the processes, the technology, and the people. Let's move to the advantages of the BPR. First is satisfaction. So a big advantage of re-engineering is that the work becomes more satisfying because the works get a greater sense of completion, closure, and accomplishment from their jobs. Diba? So, ang pinakang maganda doon, pag kasi alam mong matatapos mo yung trabaho mo, diba, within the set time, mas motivated ka na gawin yung work mo, yung task na naka-assign sa'yo. Kesa yung never-ending, parang yung motivation mo, sa halip na pataas, pababa siya ng pababa. Kasi yung trabaho binibigay sa'yo pataas ng pataas. So, di ba, employees perform a whole job, a process or a sub-process that by definition produces a result that somebody cares about. So the workers not only try to keep the boss happy or to work through the bureaucracy, more important is the fact to satisfy the customer needs. The next is knowledge, the growth of knowledge. Siyempre, the personal development within the process team environment does not play such an important role, which means climbing up the hierarchy is a minor goal. So in this case, it is much more important to get a widespread knowledge of the whole process, and there are no such thing as mastering a job. As a work's expertise and experience grow, his or her job grows with it. Totoo, 'di ba? Pag pag alam mo na 'to, syempre bibigyan ka na ng ibang work, 'di ba? Pag naalaman mo na 'to, then So pataas ng pataas. We are challenged, 'di ba? So hindi ka naman hindi tayo mag-grow ng naandito lang ito at ito lang yung hinahawakan natin. Nagiging stagnant lang tayo pag ganun. So we are aiming that we grow on knowledge as well as yung experiences natin. So hindi ka mag-stuck into one section or one process na ito lang yung ginagawa mo. Bibigyan at bibigyan ka ng other task. Siyempre, para mag-grow ka din sa organization. Next is solidarity to the company. So moreover, since workers in a re-engineered process spend more time on value-adding work and less time on work that adds no value, their contribution to the company increase. And consequently, jobs in a re-engineered environment will, on the whole, be more highly compensated. We also have demanding jobs. A challenging side to all this job, good news about work in a re-engineered environment, if jobs are more satisfying, they are also more challenging and difficult. Diba? So yung routinary work, pwede na siyang ma-eliminate. Kung alam na, 'di ba? Ito yung laging ginagawa, monthly magbabayad ka ng ganito, kailangan mag-remit ka sa ganito, monthly yan, may deadline, ganyan. So yung routinary work, na-eliminate na siya ni BPR eh. So, mas challenging na and mas difficult na yung ibang ibibigay sa'yo. Which is, hindi na siya totally kayang ilagay into system, di ba? Giisip ka na ng ibang projects, anong kailangan na gawin. So, if the old model was a simple task for simple people, the new one is complex jobs for smart people, which raises the bar for entry into the workforce. We also have the authority. In a traditional-oriented company, the management expects from the employees that they follow some specific rules. In contrast to that, the re-engineered companies do not want employees who can follow rules. They want people who will make their own rules. Yeah, so parang mas gusto ko na doon sa re-engineered organization that I will follow my own rules. As management invest at teams with the responsibility of completing an entire process, it must also give them the authority to make the decisions needed to get it done. So, basta ito, kailangan mo matapos. So, bahala ka kung anong gusto mong mangyari, paano mo siya gagawin, but ito dapat ang end result. So, ganun na sila ngayon. But if there are advantages of the BPR, of course, there are challenges in the BPR. The BPR are evidently a lot of benefits to the organizations, but these are some of the difficulties in implementation of the BPR. First is resistance. Often, the most serious problem in re-engineering business process, resistance to change. So, kanina sabi natin, critical and crucial ang people. Diba? So, definitely, pag ibinigay mo to, sabihin mo na magbabago ng process, merong mga tao or may mga employees na talagang hindi maka-adapt sa changes. Many people will go to great lengths to avoid adopting new ideas and ways of doing things. Cost. Of course, hindi mura, napakamahal or it's too expensive to have a BPR. Diba? Wala namang question doon pagdating sa cost dahil talagang kailangan mong gumastos if you want to elevate the process. So, kailangan mo munang talagang mag-isip kung kailangan ba talaga ng company ang business re-engineering. Baka kasi gagastos ka and yet hindi mo naman siya ma-implement ng ayos, then sayang yung limited resources. Job losses. So a re-engineered system making maximum use of advanced technology will usually result in employee layoffs. So if nakita niyo na yung in-upload ko na video about the Ford and Mazda. So si Ford, from 500 employees doing the accounts payable na job, they eliminated most of the employees dahil pwede naman siyang gawin ng system. So that is the result talaga ng BPR. So pwedeng million of jobs will be lost because of BPR. Tradition and culture. So in an efficient business process, pag nagkaroon ng re-engineering, yung tradition, meaning yung matagal na nilang ginagawa, ito yung nakasanayan na eh. Tapos babaguhin mo, 'di ba? Baka gusto mo sa pakinggan nila. So 'di ba? Ito kasi yung nakasanayan. So bakit mo babaguhin? Ito na yung naging culture. So ibig sabihin, when we do the BPR, may mga changes na babaguhin. So mababago din yung corporate culture and hindi po yan madali. Time requirements. So re-engineering often takes 2 or more years. Na ganun katagal siya. Siyempre kailangan nating isipin na mabuti ano yung magiging changes. Before we implement it, we have a trial error stage, diba? Hindi agad-agad perfect. We need to redefine the process. So kagaya ni AT&T na nag-re-engineer siya ng projects kagaya ng changes in manufacturing, shipping, installation, billing, and dealing with customers. So significantly changes the process for financial reporting and creating contacts and proposals. Yan, completely reorganize the information system. Nagbago sila ng policy. So basically, nag-start sila ulit from the scratch. Nagsimula ulit sila ng bago. New policies, new procedures, new manuals. So there are a lot of changes. The changes in job description, so bago ulit sa mga employees. So hindi siya madali. And a lot of time ang dapat nakalaan for the re-engineering process. Lack of management support. So, malamang sa malamang, kung kulang ang management support, hindi talaga magsasucceed ang re-engineering process. So, kailangan mo nang ma-convince natin ang from top management to the bottom level of the management na etong re-engineering process will benefit them. Okay. Kailangan ma-set up muna natin yun sa organizations before going through the re-engineering process. Kailangan may commitment muna ang buong team, ang buong organizations, even with the little changes. Kasi pwedeng hindi siya mag-succeed. But yun ang pwedeng maging reasons bakit hindi mag-succeed ang re-engineering process. Risks to managers. Siyempre may risk yan sa manager. So kung ang re-engineering projects natin ay hindi nag-succeed, definitely ang bagsak niyan sa managers, ang sisi. But if mag-succeed naman, then managers are look to be favorable sa organizations. But definitely it is risky. Risky career move pagdating sa managers. Skepticism. So some people view BPR as the same old traditional systems development with a fancy new name and a more attractive wrapper. So others doubt it can be done Diba? Yung hindi talaga sila convinced na mangyayari to or magbe-benefit sila dito or the organizations will benefited from the re-engineering process. So, ang dami agad doubt, ang dami agad negativity. So, most probably hindi talaga siya mag-succeed if hindi pa nga nagsisimula, negative na agad ang thinking. Okay. And the last is the retraining. So kapag in-implement syempre sa engineering process, we have to retrain the employees. Ano ang bagong changes? So meaning meron ulit cost for the retraining process, di ba? And it will consume time, syempre. Hindi naman agad-agad ma-absorb yan ng lahat ng employees. So, kailangan natin yan i-consider. That is one of the challenges in BPR process. Okay, so that is all about the challenges of the BPR. Now we move to the implication. So this will summarize all the BPR processes. So meron din akong in-upload na video about Michael Hammer. So ang re-engineering kasi nag-start kay Michael Hammer. So siya yung isa sa naka-discover ng re-engineering process. And later naging kasama niya si Champy. So with Michael Hammer and Champy, yung naging concepts nila about re-engineering, the same din na naging concepts ni Davenport and ni Short. Okay? They agreed that the processes should be transformed holistically rather than by fixing bottlenecks in the small increments. They also agreed on the essential role ng IT. The role of IT should play in business process transformation. And most importantly, their ideas point to a formulation of the process enterprise that is different from the functional hierarchical organization with which corporations had been aligned. So ano yung ibig sabihin dun sa functional and the hierarchical organizations? We have this differentiation of the two. So the more realistic approach for becoming a process enterprise is to have a matrix structure of process hierarchy and a functional hierarchy. So ito yung difference ng functional and the process. Process enterprise holds the promise of being more responsive to market requirements, and it is suited for companies that offer differentiated products and service rather than competing on cost alone. So organizational realignment by itself does not result in improvements. Organizational realignment has to be accompanied by change in management practices and mindset. Okay, so that is the most important thing in the BPR process. We have to consider all sides of the organizations, all parts of the organizations. So, kailangan makapag-adapt sa magiging changes. Okay? So, proper practice, management practices, and mindsets are very important. So, that ends the topic about the BPR. Thank you for listening, and please check the Google Classroom for different videos that I uploaded about the BPR. And also, the next lesson will be recorded again, the lesson 3.